I'm going to ask the board if we can take our meeting out of order and start with our second, you don't even have the agenda, but move on to what you're all here for. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Could you introduce or find out who these people are?
We could. We'll start with
I'm Laura Hogue.
on the board. She's on the board. Laura Hogue. Can you hear us? I'm Jane Crocker.
Earl Baxter.
I'm Clark James from Casella Organics.
Jim Talvey from Casella Organics.
Karen Hubeck-Kiley from Bond Construction Corporation.
And Lori Weeder, I work in the office as the Board of Health agent.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there was a sign-up sheet. If you didn't get a chance to do it before this, you can after, anytime. It's just so if you have any questions that weren't answered, that we can get back to you. And I'm going to tell you that we are being filmed by the Templeton Community TV. And there is a microphone in front of the room. Yes, everybody wave, you're on TV. No one should touch the mic, but if you want to ask a question, please walk, and you can either sit down or stand in front of it to ask your question. That will make it the easiest. And I want you to first state your name and then ask your question or make your statement. So this meeting is only to answer questions with regard to the application submitted to the Mass DEP for the biomix. The gravel pit has yet to be submitted, gravel permit, sorry. However, the stormwater permit has been submitted to the planning board, and it is tentatively scheduled for December 10th, that hearing. Bond sand and gravel as a good faith gesture, being neighborly, or however you want to look at it, provide a material for the highway department to make some repairs to Royalston Road. And town council we've also been in touch with them in regards to the biomix material. And it is neither considered garbage or refuge, so that's important. It's not prohibited by any local bylaws, so that you know that. There will also be questions about zoning, and we will research those, and that's why we wanted your names and telephone numbers, or add however we can get in touch with you. So we are going to go to Earthlife Casella Organics, and we're going to ask, I believe, Mr. Talvey to speak, unless it's Jim, which one of you wants to speak on this matter. And then you can ask your questions.
Okay, I can give you a general overview of what we have proposed. It's been a gravel pit that's been abandoned for many years. The landowners are either deceased or the family members that are living are not interested in the property. It's now being managed or overseen by a law firm in Boston. So we reached out to them because the pit is currently in violation for reclamation. And that's what we do. We either do this project on farmland or gravel pits. So we take the paper fiber out of the Irving paper mill and we make a manufactured topsoil with it. This site here is not an agricultural site. It's strictly a reclamation, so the paper would come in, it would be mixed with the sand and laid out in about a 12-inch layer of topsoil. And then we seed it down into a permanent grass. So basically, this is going to become a wildlife sanctuary. The landowner, or the law firm that oversees the family trust, we've met with them, and there's been many other ideas of what to do with the property, but they're interested in conservation land, and that's what we do. But like I said, 90% of my work is on state-controlled farmland in Western Mass and in Worcester County. This is probably, DEP consider this probably one of the nicest sites because of the soil conditions there. It's sand, there's no stone, it would mix easily, and it would be a really nice wildlife sanctuary or conservation land, which are the abutting land uses. And Landvest has already looked at it for conservation. They're a firm that purchases conservation land nationwide, and they just purchased a big chunk of the Fernald School. And I think that property actually wraps around to this property, and they would like to maybe bring this into that umbrella or that envelope once this is done. This is I've had a lot of phone calls in the last couple of weeks about, just subjects that aren't relevant to this material, like contaminated material. This is a recycling project for the paper. The paper fiber cannot go to a landfill. The DEP wants it go to a beneficial use project like farmland renovation or something like this. We don't see a lot of sand pits most of them get built into housing developments. So we never get a chance to make them into conservation land. So this is a little different. This piece of property doesn't have a lot of road frontage, so it's not going to be a housing development, but it could easily be a solar farm. So we're kind of excited that the lawyers have decided to go with a conservation plan rather than solar. So it's a permitted project, a permitted practice with DEP. I've been doing these for 10 years, and it's been vetted by multiple state agencies, and we've never had such an outcry before, so I'm here just to present good information and keep it to the facts. I mean, I had a call from somebody and said that we were gonna build a transfer station or a facility. No, we're gonna plant grass and we're leaving. And the DEP, this isn't gonna cost the town anything. The DEP is at our side monitoring all activity. And that's the way it is even on the dairy farms that we work on, or hay farms. The paper fiber adds organic matter, and it has limestone in it, so it adjusts the pH. So we look for bad land that a farmer has that he can't afford lime for, and this amends the pH of the soil so things grow really well. And the farmers that we've been dealing with are very happy with it, and we have a number of farmers that have been doing it for years because they have large pieces of property and we don't have that much material, so it takes a while to cycle through this. This site is, 60, 70 acres. It would probably take us a year and a half, 2 years or so, depending on the weather conditions. This would be, when the weather's right, we'd be in there. We have farm projects we work on in the summer months, so this might be a fall, winter project for us. And we would seed it down during the seeding season, which is, June and September. I had some conversations today that there was a sportsman's club that was concerned about the animals. It's going to be an amazing wildlife sanctuary after we're out of there with the grass growing. And we built our first wildlife sanctuary was for Bond, Karen here. It was a 50-acre site in Spencer, and it was like the surface of the moon. We went in there was no vegetation or a few small sticks growing, and now it's a grassland, and that was 5 or 6 years ago. She's very happy with it. The town was very happy with it, and the DEP was very happy with it. So I'd love to answer any questions and try to spell any talk of landfill or facility. That's not what's going on here. It's 4 or 5 loads a day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes less. And we would be working there, when we're working, once or twice a week, get the loads, mix them, lay them out. It's pretty simple. And, any discussion of hazardous waste, those kind of phone calls to the DEP, there's a department that deals with that. The people that I deal with are the recycling people. So they're not gonna communicate with, facts that are off-center. They just will deal with we've completely tested. That's what we have to do. We tested this property to make sure there was no contamination present, because we know the paper fiber has tested every month, 12 months of the year. It goes back years, and it never changes. It's always the same. It's a benign material. Let's have some questions.
Hello. Thank you first to the Board of Health for volunteering your services for the town. I've been on the zoning board in another town, and it is not always a rewarding endeavor. My name is Joellen Parker, and I live on Norcross Hill.
With who?
I live on Norcross Hill. Joellen Parker. So I reviewed your application, and I have a few questions. my first question is, who is Michael Smith? And you don't have to answer these in any order, you can just kind of keep track of them. I actually could give you these so you could know what my questions were. You want to hand those up to them? Thanks. So who is Michael Smith and how does Templeton LLC relate to Casella Organics? And I understand you're originated in Vermont and that you have projects in many of the close New England states. And I also understand that that might be a different board question that needs to go somewhere else. So on page 1 of your
Want to go
application.
with, we'll answer the first question first?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Michael Smith is the lawyer in the law firm that has been dealing with the trust for many years.
Okay.
So his name is responsible for all activity with the property.
Okay, well, that's helpful.
He would be the master of the trust.
All right. Thank you. So, on page 101, and I think you might have already answered this particular question, you stated that it was not an agricultural operation.
Correct.
But on your application, it says it's agricultural. So, permit operation, agricultural. So, you're telling me it's not, and that's what the land is zoned as. So that was number one, and you kind of answered it by saying it's not agricultural, but your application does say agricultural.
Find out what they say.
He already said it. There's no agricultural business here,
Other than growing grass.
other than growing grass. So in my review, I didn't see you growing anything except grass, perhaps, and I understand the conservation piece, that makes sense, but it seems like it's commercial to me. You're getting benefit from another business to take care of a problem they have, which is where are they gonna put sludge? And you're using that for your benefit, not for an agricultural means. That's pretty clear to me from what your application says. So that's the second piece. On page 1, it says that short paper fiber is blended with Irving's wastewater from their wastewater treatment plant. Now granting, you have tested on 2 samples in your report, and you're telling me that this is tested every month, but you're only talking about 2 samples. So it would have benefited me to see more samples that had actually showed that there are no PCBs, et cetera, in this wastewater treatment that also comes from the town of Irving, and I don't know what they flush down their toilets, frankly. So I lived in Baldwinville my growing up years, and we've had PCBs in our river, and it was not a good thing to do. So I understand there was only 0.87 in there, but parts per million of PCBs. So I do have a concern about PCBs. You can see that I actually wear my Best Brigade sweatshirt. We grew up in Baldwinville, and at least 4 people that we know have ALS. Do I know that that ALS did not come from PCBs in the Odor River when I was growing up and playing down in Back Bay, which, if you don't know where Back Bay is, it's the Baldwinville part that's all built up. So we all grew up there, and I have a sister with this. I had a friend in high school that died from ALS, and I can't even stomach a little bit of PCBs in the water. So, additionally, you took 6 test pit samples to determine the depth of the water table in the high water mark. And as you note in the report on page 3, a minimum of 3 feet or 36 inches between the lowest point of the land application and the maximum high groundwater table is necessary, 36 inches. In test pit 4, one of the closest pits to the river, the estimated seasonal high water mark was 36 inches. So that doesn't leave you any room to put anything. 2 other test pits show the water table to be 40 inches, 4 inches below the high water mark. This is back where I think about my science lessons, and I think about compression and time and water. We're not making diamonds here. And all I can see is that at a certain point, you get saturation. And once that saturation happens, you get 6 more inches of rain, where does that water go? Well, it's pushed through the system and into the river. And I'm not done with that yet. No interrupting a speaker. So the Odor River is 1,000 feet away from the pit. But when the backwater rises at Birch Hill Dam, is that still true? What happens when 893 tons per acre are put down? Do we not get compression from that, which is pushing that fluid and that water through the system? Now, I can't tell you how much 893 tons weighs on a foot of land, but you had permission for up to 893 tons based on the soil that is in this pit. That seems extreme for a company that's saying they're just coming in to make grass. Because that's not making grass, that's dumping sludge. Because you do have wastewater, and you are collecting it from the town of Irving. And I don't know why Irving can't keep their own sewerage. Thank you very much. The next piece has to do with the fact that the wetlands only have to be 100 feet away. There are wetlands all around that property, all the way around. There are wetlands closer to 68, and there are wetlands on the other side of the river. Now, the U.S. Geological Survey that you put in your proposal shows those wetlands. And again, we have had extraordinary rain often this summer, and I can't guarantee we're not going to have it again and again. We have 6 inches at a time. We're talking about weight and time. And we're pushing those fluids through that system and into our rivers and into our wells. Everyone who lives there has to have an artesian well or a dug well. We don't have town water there. It comes from that area, and I don't think you can tell me where the aquifers are. And so that the people who live on Burden Road and the people who live on Norcross, anywhere on Route 68, all dig down wells, 800 feet, 200 feet, depends on the moment. So I'm saying I don't want anything in my well water, thank you. It's very pure and clean. And if this goes through, there should be a bond that states that someone's well getting chemicals in it will be able to apply for that bond money to fix the situation. Because I don't want to drink water that's not pure as driven snow. The smell of sludge is the next piece. Based on the wind, either everyone on Route 68 and Norcross Hill is going to smell it, or it's going to sit in the Odor River Valley. Again, Poor Back Bay in Baldwinville. If you are on Norcross Hill and you look into Baldwinville in the morning, you see everything sitting there. That's where the fog sits. That's where the smell sits. It will be right in Back Bay. This is another thing for another committee probably. We already have a noisy race track down the road that has very high decibels. And frankly, I don't want my tax rate to go higher because I have the opportunity to have sludge, but I would certainly be looking for it to go lower if everybody who wanted to come to my property had to smell it. So if you haven't smelled it and they haven't brought you some, you should get the opportunity to smell it. It is horrendous. Any place it's been put on farmland locally, now maybe their process is different. I'm not saying it's not, but any place that it's been put on farmland locally, it stinks. Now I realize Mr. Tavy, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. Talvey, has stated that only a phone call will be needed to remediate the smell. And he'll get to the issue right away. And I'm not doubting that. But what happens when he's not there? What happens when an irresponsible person is there? This stuff can sit there for an entire summer legally by regulation. 90 days of putrid sludge sitting there waiting to be put on the fields and mixed is going to stink. I don't care what you say. I know.
Your days it's 42 days, but we mix it.
You said 42. The regulation says up to 90. The rules, federal rules say up to 90. That's what it looked like.
Wow. The DEP permit that we have issued on these other sites is always 42 days, but we mix it the week that it comes in.
Okay.
And the day that we touch it, we have 6 hours to incorporate it. So we have a 6-hour work rule. So I'm not sure what you're referring
Okay,
to.
but while you're working it, it still stinks. It smells bad. You can't tell me it doesn't smell bad. I'm sorry. So, although you have good intentions, and I appreciate that, I don't think that I want to smell that every summer. Because the wind's not always going to blow into Back Bay. It's going to blow up the hill, too. And the other piece is that I understand there are two parts of products that come from the paper mill. One is the regular short
Paper
fiber. And then there's this mushy stuff that's also part of that process. And if that mushy stuff, which smells even worse, is part of this, then that's just abysmal. And lastly, I need to talk about Route 68. And this probably bothers the bond people more than some of the others. But personally, I think it's a shame that the state does not maintain Route 68, but that's not for this group. The state, of course, does to Gardner, but not our end. The road is not safe to anyone thinking they can travel it at any speed. If you think you can drive 50 miles an hour down that road safely, you are wrong. It should be a 45-mile-an-hour road. You drive down at 45 miles an hour, you may leave your muffler somewhere. So it's not safe. And it's unsafe due to the trucks that left that very gravel pit to bring all that gravel to the big dig. 3 to 5 trucks a day going over this poor road, it will become impassable. It already has parts that are impassable. Now, I recognize they put some tar down. I'm sorry. Whoever put the tar down, and if it was our town people, I apologize. They did a great job on Norcross Hill, but if they put that tar down, then somebody forgot how to do work, because it's horrible and worse. So with 3 to 5 trucks a day going over this, and it's going to get worse. The town of Templeton may be able to get money to fix it in 5 years, which is what we're hearing, that in about 5 years they're going to have the money to fix the road. And by the time we get 3 to 5 trucks a day going back and forth again, what's the road going to look like? They're going to be doing this for 14.7 years. That's 9 years of truck travel over a road that is not maintained as well as it could be because of its age, frankly. It was put in after the hurricane. That's the last time any major work has been done on that road. So it has no roadbed. It has no drainage, and it's not good. So again, this plan goes through, and this is probably a planning board thing. I think there needs to be a bond for the road. You mess it up again after it's fixed in 5 years, then it needs to be fixed again. That didn't happen after the big dig and all of that property, but frankly, you can't drive on the road. It's the way it is. So, I understand they put the tire on the side of the road to make the road a little wider, so the trucks wouldn't have to go down the middle like the big dig trucks did. So you had to get pushed off the road to drive down Route 68 whenever you passed a truck. And I understand that that went in there, and I appreciate that, but it was a really crappy job, and it did nothing. I also looked for minutes from anybody about this project on the town website and on YouTube, and I found nothing at all. And I found agendas, but not meeting minutes. And it's, I don't know where they are. I think the town's website is horrendous also. I guess I'm an opinionated little witch here. But, I gotta say that I could find nothing that would tell me that this was anything I needed to care about. And that's why we're all here tonight, because somebody said, oh, you know they're gonna do this? And of course, I got my little dandruff. So, thank you very much for your time. You can answer any other people's questions. I just needed to spout, apparently.
Thank you.
Bravo. Who, me?
No, her.
Oh. Nobody's paying me.
Hi, my name's Pete Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. Does anybody know what happened to our out-of-town bylaw on waste? Did that just disappear? Is that something that we still have? Is that something that got repealed? Can the Board of Health answer that?
It hasn't been repealed as far as I know.
So we still have its use of the sanitary landfill, this one right here, we still have this?
What are you looking for, Pete?
This one right here, Ray. Article 23, use of the sanitary landfill.
What's that?
I've got probably
Is
a
this-
complete record of, history of the whole thing.
Is it still good? Is this
Yes.
still good?
Yes, but we had a conversation with the town council, and it was determined that this was not garbage, and it was not prohibited by law. It wasn't out of town, considered out of town.
How is it not out of town?
Can be out of town.
How is that not out of town?
That's what they told us.
Well, it's not out of Irving's
Can we get a, can we get a copy of that opinion?
Sure,
Is it in writing?
yep. We get copies of that. Yep.
I'd just like to go over it just really quick. The out-of-town bylaw mentions the dump, and then it says, excluded shall be the transportation of garbage and refuse from out-of-town areas to the Templeton landfill and/or any other properties in the town of Templeton, which I would think the Gavin Hill Road, or the Gavin Road property would be in Templeton. But refuse, what I've seen, and I took this out of the Webster's 1996 unabridged dictionary, is that refuge, garbage, and waste are used interchangeably. That's right out of the dictionary. Refuse is something that is discarded as worthless or useless, rubbish, trash, garbage. Rejected, this is number 2, rejected as worthless, discarded, refuse matter. Garbage is discarded animal and vegetable matter, as from a kitchen refuge. Any matter that is no longer needed, trash. 3 is anything that is contemptibly worthless, inferior, vile, which my opinion is the town council's opinion. But when we go to waste, waste says garbage and refuse. So the 3 of them, I think, are used interchangeably in the dictionary. And when we get to waste, then we go to the EPA's criteria for the definition of solid waste and solid hazardous waste exclusions. And under that heading, we get to what is a solid waste. And it says here, RCRA states that solid waste means any garbage or refuse, sludge from a wastewater treatment plant. Is this not coming from a wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, 2%.
So this would be, well, I think that's a sludge, but I think they turn it into cake. Is it cake that's gonna be delivered to the site? is this cake that's being mixed with the gravel, or is this sludge that's being mixed with the gravel?
It's the paper fiber, the short paper fibers.
What's the percent solids on that?
45.
45, so it's cake.
And 2% from the sewage treatment plant in Irving.
Well, they're probably, it's gonna go through a dewatering operation at Irving, am I
correct.
correct at this? So you'll have activated sludge in that, which goes to their either primary or another dewatering thing, so it's mixed in with that sludge. So that's waste-activated sludge, they call that waste-activated sludge. And then that gets added to the waste sludge from the paper mill, the industrial process. So I would think that our out-of-town bylaw covers this, and that you should not be able to bring this into town because of our bylaw, if this bylaw is still on the books. Some people have said they can't find the bylaw on the Board of Health website. Is that true? Has anybody had?
Find it. I couldn't find it either.
So, can you explain why we can't find that bylaw on the website?
No, but it has not been repealed.
So
It's still active.
It's still current?
Yep.
I don't understand how an attorney, a town attorney can look at that and come to that conclusion, but he clearly did. Now, I was a town official at one time, I was a sewer commissioner, and oftentimes with professionals like engineers and lawyers, and not all the time, but if you're looking for an opinion and you want it to go a certain way, they'll give you the opinion you want. I think this needs to be looked at a little closer, because I think our out-of-town bylaw covers this material, should not be coming into our town. Also, as a sewer commissioner, I dealt with Casella when the dump was coming into town. And one of the conversations that we had was the small amount that they were going to start with for the dump. And then I asked him, I says, well, how long will it take us to get to 450 tons a day? And very excited, he says, well, we can get there pretty quick. So even though something starts small, we saw with the original dump that Casella, is Casella Organics also, is that a division of Casella, the same Casella that was here in 2004?
It's our parent
Was
company.
going to, so you are a division of them. So it does pertain. So sometimes things start small, but then they get big quick, especially now, I believe it was $400,000 that Casella dropped on the town the first time as a gift. And was it more than that? Do you remember?
I wasn't,
Oh, okay.
I wasn't around at that point in time. I don't even know when that happened.
2004, I believe. Somebody here, maybe Mr. Trivolo could address it later. But my comment is, I guess the point that I'm making is that even though something may start one way, the laws change, and all of a sudden, you've got a nice conservation area, but there's money involved, and all of a sudden, it turns into a dump. And I hope that won't happen in our town, but it almost did the last time, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Thank you.
You don't
Can you
have
hear
to
me
touch
from
it.
here?
Yep.
Thank you, members of the Health Board and members of Casella. I'm Ray Votilla. I've been a member of the TCAD. That was Templeton Citizens Against the Dump. I've been there, and I have compiled a history of all those years I've been in here. And my concern is, I do not trust Casella to do anything good for us. I have to make that statement. And that's backed up by a report by Texox Action
Toxics Action Center.
And it lists all the different towns where Casella has operations. And all of these towns, I haven't read them all, but I assume that all of these towns have had a problem with Casella. Let me get to, bear with me, please. I didn't write this book. This is recommendations and strategies to protect our communities. I think the message is don't let them in, period. George McNally, retired selectman from Bethlehem, New Hampshire. As I mentioned before, I have all written history here from the TCAD era, and I can't go through it all, but I want to make my point. I do not trust Casella to do anything, because usually when they come in, they get a toehold, and all of a sudden, they want to expand right off quick. Do not, Board of Health, do not vote for these Casella to be in. Thank you.
Thank you.
April Cover, Meadowbrook Lane. I've done some research on your company, and my first group of concerns is with everybody else. I understand that you guys have had a great deal of lawsuits. Do you care to discuss those? I read about 200 different accusations. Do you have any comments in regards to those?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I live in West Brookfield,
Yeah.
and most of my work is within a 30 or 40 mile radius of my farm. There's been no lawsuits in 10 years.
In other states?
Well, that's
I
not
understand you've
true.
been kicked out of Maine. You've been kicked out of New York. There's been lawsuits by, 19 different towns, cities in Maine. You're not welcomed anymore in New York, is from what I understand also.
I have to stop you there. That's not true. My office happens to be in Maine.
I've just done my research.
It's fine. I'm just telling you. We operate extensively through Maine. We still have a broad range of operations in New York. So we are a fairly sizable company with about $2 billion in market capitalization. So it is natural. There are lawsuits. We've been in business now since, I think, 1980.
But all your lawsuits are stemming from the waste, the water, the wells that are being poisoned. Those type of accusations, everything that everybody here is concerned in regards to, like, I don't know how you can sit here and deny them. I mean, they're right out there you can just Google the name and it's horrendous what comes up.
That's landfill. This is not a landfill.
But
No,
you are a brother of that landfill company.
That
You
doesn't-
carry the same title, the same name. And then that brings me to my next question. Why is this going into a trust? Is it to protect your personal assets and liabilities? Typically, that's why somebody puts something in it like this in a trust.
The family that owns the land, the parents have died. The siblings that remain have about a dozen properties similar to this one. And they have so much money, they don't care about them anymore. And so the lawyers are managing the trust, not the family.
Okay.
So, there's lots, you're throwing out all kinds of accusations. Sure, Casella has lawsuits. I don't know about any of these. Like I said, 99% of my work is on farmland, and everyone's been happy with the projects. We haven't had one paper fiber project end up in a lawsuit.
Okay, maybe you ought to Google your business when you get home. 'Cause
Well,
there's
I
quite a
live
bit
it, I
out
know.
there.
I mean, Casella, Mother Casella, which owns us, has nothing to do with this project.
Okay. And then my next question is, I did watch a presentation to the Board of Health. It's completely different from what I'm hearing here. What I'm hearing here is that you guys are gonna go in, you're gonna lay this topsoil, so to speak, down, and you're gonna replenish this land. From what I heard from my meeting from the Board of Health, you guys are actually going to go in, you're gonna fix what's been taken out, you're gonna replenish that, but then you're also gonna be removing what's there for additional topsoil. Where's that going?
Well, there is no real topsoil there. That's the whole thing. If I
I
may.
listened to the Board of Health meeting, and I believe that you guys said you're gonna be removing stuff,
She's confused.
and he's gonna be following behind you.
No. So I'm with Bond Construction Corporation. So there is some existing gravel that's there. When there's gravel, you have the growth of, like, say, pine trees. You won't have maples or oaks or the type of trees that create organics. So when we go in and we do earth removal, I do have a book here if anybody would like to see, and the reason that I'm here with them is because different pits that I've done, because there isn't organics that are left after. I mean, the little bit we will strip off and we pile the organics or any topsoil, but it's not very deep. So as far as doing reclamation with it, it doesn't go very far. So what we do is when we remove the gravel and then we're looking to reclaim the land after, we've done work with Casella Organics, because this paper fiber comes in, as it breaks down, it creates the organics that you need for growth. It's a great recycled product. And like I said, I have a ton of pictures here that anybody's welcome to take a look at. There's 3 different projects that I've done with them. In fact, it's a recycled product now, because loam or topsoil is very hard to come by. There's a lot of bylaws, even within different towns, that don't allow you to remove it from the town that it's even in. So different jobs are coming up now that are requiring us to utilize what's called manufactured topsoil. That's specifically from the product that Casella Organics brings in. So the state at this point is even saying, we want you to use this product, we're permitting this product, it's a safe product, and it's actually our way of being green. So with the paper fiber, when we utilize it, it stops erosion because it holds everything there. As it's breaking down, it feeds the seeds that are put on there. And we did a project in Ware, that's under the Farm Bureau. She's actually hanging the first phase that we've done reclamation on. So this paper fiber came in, they worked with her and said, what type of seed do you want? It was seeded, and she's had it now for 3 years. And we're working on the second phase. Once that's done, then they'll come in again and they'll do it again. So there is some organics that's there as far as topsoil, but not enough to do proper reclamation. And that's why the pit looks the way that it does now on Gavin Road, because there isn't any organics there. You know, you have ATVs that are in there that are causing giant erosion. If this material comes in, it stops that. And it would just be a meadow that could be mowed if they choose to, or they could just leave it as it is. But it will allow other organics to come in that are natural and.
I just have a question. They're gonna be bringing it in, and they're gonna process it, you're gonna be taking it out? Is that
No.
what I'm understanding?
No.
Why
No.
would you do this? What,
There's still 10 acres of gravel pit that was never removed, the gravel, so it's permitted for that use. That's what she is going to do.
So
They're
while,
gonna take that gravel out?
so we would
Yes.
remove the gravel, they would be doing reclamation. So this would all be done in conjunction with each other,
So
whereas
that's more trucks on the road, not just their trucks, but your trucks coming out too.
there would be trucks going out, yes.
They're coming in and out.
There would be, yes, a few of theirs and a few of ours. Well, it's a long haul for us. We would probably have maybe 3 or 4 a day that would do a couple rounds. It's about a 2-hour round trip.
Well, say 4 or 5. So that's 8, correct? 8 a day?
Depending.
It's a 2-round trip. You can do more trips than one in a day.
Right.
That's what I said. It would be about a 2-hour round trip.
Is it your sand that you're gonna use to mix with the sludge?
It would be the
On
sand on the
Or
site.
are you bringing in sand from somewhere else?
No, there's
No.
large piles of what's called dead sand on site that's not really, doesn't have any marketable use. There's large, And that's what's piled up out there, and it, like, you know, part of the gravel pit previous operation, none of this, no reclamation really took place, just a very little. And there's unsafe slopes.
I have one more question. How big are these trucks? What size trucks are they?
They would be 10-wheelers and dump trailers.
Yeah, biggies.
So how many tons are they?
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts determines that with a 10-wheeler, you can carry up to 21 tons, and a trailer dump, you can carry up to, depending on the tear weight, about 30 tons.
So, what's 30 tons? What's that in pounds? 60,000.
Be 60,000 pounds.
60,000 pounds going over the roads like that?
That's
That
what-
many trucks?
That's what, I mean, each state is different.
That road is not gonna take that. It's already shattered. The sides are all falling apart. Even that little bit of tire's gonna be gone.
I know what.
And you're with Bond Construction, right?
Yes, I am.
And I understand that you previously came in and actually paved that road. Is that true or not?
No. What we did was, I was up there to just check on the pit the other day, and I saw that the highway was actually,
Deplorable?
no,
Yeah.
the highway, the highway department was on, Royalston Road, and they were dumping and spreading asphalt.
It's not gonna last 'cause it's size.
But so all I did was I said, hey, you know, I would like to be neighborly, and we have our own asphalt plant in Spencer, and we just helped them and delivered 3 loads of asphalt.
Just to be neighborly.
That's what we do.
That's a little ironic. My next question is, how are we as a town gonna benefit from this? Like, I wanna hear some benefits. I mean, there must be some kind of a benefit to the town.
From my standpoint, you've got an unreclaimed gravel pit right now. This process would reclaim that site and make it a much more improved condition.
Can I just ask, so, how many tons per acre? Because when I talk to my farmer friends, my family members, it's 15,000 tons per acre, not 893. So my impression of this is that you're gonna put more than one layer. That you're gonna layer it, and then layer it, and then layer it, and then layer it.
After they dig it out.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what it says in here, 893 tons per acre. Are you gonna pile it up?
It's going to be a 12-inch lift, and that's heavy, with the sand included in it. So it's a 12-inch vegetative cover. That's basically what we're going to do.
And that weighs 893 tons?
Yeah?
Well, how come my farmer friends can only have 15,000 tons on their acreage?
What do you mean farmer friends? I'm
My-
a farmer.
I
have a
know.
dairy farm.
Okay.
So you
but
talk to me talk to me
I am-
farming.
I am
I
talking
understand
to
the
farming.
language.
I
When you say
understand.
15 tons,
so the
are you
difference
talking
is-
about yield or fertilizer applications? What are we?
The sludge application with the mix,
No,
15,000 tons.
no one's putting 15,000. Who is this person that's putting
Oh,
15,000?
sorry, 15, am I probably saying wrong, huh?
Yeah, you're way up.
15 tons.
893 per gallon, 893 gallons.
It's probably 15 tons per acre, not 1,500, sorry. 15 tons per acre. Isn't that what he said, what Randy said?
Because you're applying for a particular crop, you're not building a topsoil. So what we're doing is we're building a new topsoil. So this is mineral soil. The reason this was a gravel pit was because it contains mineral soils. A lot of those soils were extracted. Some additional soils will be extracted.
That is
and then
not
we can-
clear from your application, I gotta tell you.
I
My
don't-
impression from that application is you guys are coming with truckload after truckload and putting it in a big heap, which you can keep there for 40 days, and then working it, except when it's raining. And otherwise, that is not clear from your application.
What team?
Because your application says 893 tons per acre, and I know other people aren't putting that many tons per acre.
We're building the topsoil. We're not just fertilizing. You're thinking about fertilizer.
Okay, all right, I'll
So,
give you that.
I'm not buying the fact that you're coming into Templeton to buy a piece of land, to better that piece of land for no profit.
We're not purchasing the
We're
land.
not purchasing the land.
Okay, well, you're just gonna come into Templeton and do us a favor and raise this land and make it a, I honestly think it's just a hidden dumping station. I'm done.
I don't need the mic, everybody can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi,
You
Rick
gotta
Tripolo.
speak into the mic.
So they can hear it on the TV.
Still me any good?
No.
Honey, you're on TV.
My name is Rick Tripolo, 226 Royston Road, okay? I used to be on the Board of Health, I was the chair at one time. I only have a couple things to say. First of all, you're not under oath, correct?
Excuse me?
You're not under oath, correct?
We were not
So
sworn
we
in.
have no idea as to what you're saying is true, that all your assurances are true. We've been through this with you guys before, all right? Secondly, what is refuse? I'm sorry about the lawyer, okay? I don't know who he's working for. But when we wrote the bylaw, the intent of the bylaw is to prevent any of this stuff from coming in. The fact that we didn't happen to mention sludge or a particular, there's no law that says we have to include a list of everything in that bylaw to prevent it from coming into town. You understand? All right. So I don't know where the lawyer comes up with when the intent of the bylaw was to prevent any of this stuff from coming into town because we got dirtied by you guys. All right? So we already know where you're coming from. The other thing is refuse, all right? What is, as Pete tried to put it, what is refuse, okay? What you're doing is you're bringing in a substance that has a negative value to it. It's not a positive value. You're not buying it. Nobody's selling it to you. They're paying you to take it away. That's trash, that's garbage, that's refuse, and it is within the definition of this bylaw. I don't care what the lawyer says because that's a legal opinion. He's not a judge and it's not a ruling. Anything more I want to hear from you guys, I want to hear it under oath. So we can ask you a question and we can get a truthful answer, or at least a recording of this. This is bullshit assurances. I don't care where you guys are coming from. You can say this, oh yeah, we're only gonna pick in, as soon as your company took over, tried to take our landfill, they immediately upped how much stuff they were gonna come in. They promised the town, we're gonna give you $1 million a year to run that dump, except that the town was gonna have to pay for the roads. The town was gonna have to pay for the up. You remember all that? Oh, yeah. Okay, what did that come down to when we were done? They were gonna give us $1 million a year. We might clear a couple $100,000 out of it, taking care of the landfill that you guys were coming in to do it. So, you can understand, I'm gonna oppose you. I'm gonna oppose you every single way I can. I'm gonna be vocal about it. Just letting you warning, okay? I don't want you coming in there. Besides, I live right down the road. Who are you to smell up my air? Who are you to do this to our town? What rights do you have to violate my rights to breathe clean air? Understand me? I'm coming at you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm not going through this again.
Hi there. I'm Beverly Bartolomeo. I live on South Road in Templeton. I think you know where that is. I was on the Board of Health too, way before him. My friend Gladys Salem and I wrote the original bylaw to keep stuff like this out of town after Hutchie's dumped waste from Boston on us. This was the essence of that bylaw. When I was on the Board of Health, I'm gonna be real quick, we had a problem with Lilly Chemical dumping solvent in the swamp. So I did a water sample when a lady called me. And I gave it to the guy that was on the Board of Health with me. And I'll be damned, didn't you know they lost that water sample? How could you do that? Well, I was so naive, I believed him. But it bothered me enough so that I called the EPA. Because next to Lilly Chemical was Trout Brook in the pond near the Candlelight Cafe. And all that water ran into our town well. I was a young kid there. then, but I said, you know what, I'll be damned if anybody's gonna die, because I didn't do my job. Well, when the EPA came down with their meter, we got that situation straightened out. But there was this woman, and she was a hydrologist. And I took her for a ride to see where our landfill was and where the guys used to dump sewerage because there wasn't a sewer treatment plant. She almost had a heart attack. What you guys are gonna do is in our watershed for our town wells. So between that and our bylaw, I hope this is the last time we see you. Because I don't think the Attorney General is gonna let you come in. Then, I heard about you today, Jim. I talked to a friend of mine. I've known him since he was a little kid. He's a farmer. He ain't a very happy farmer either. Because you didn't do what you were supposed to for him. You left him with a mess to clean up. So I asked him about this project that you're talking about. And he made reference to the use of this area for 50 years. Apparently, there's another acreage that abuts it. And that there would be 4 to 5 feet of material. Well, if you've got a hole in the ground, you're not gonna do the hole, you're gonna fill the hole up. I remember when Charlie Housen and I had lunch with the rest of the Board of Health, and he was knocking himself out trying to find a place to get rid of all the sludge. He had a brother-in-law that he paid just to dig holes and fill it up to see what happened. So apparently what you're telling these people isn't the truth. Apparently Ray's field needed some work, but you told him you spent the money. You have to be 200 feet away from a drinking water, and you can't plant anything that you can eat in there for at least 2 years. He did it where he is, he doesn't have doesn't have water that people are gonna drink next to him. I didn't agree with what he did, but that was his business. But I do have a problem with you coming here. I don't have drinking water, but I have friends that have children. We've had all kinds of problems, like the girl said. How many people do I know in town that have had Parkinson's? I don't know where that came from. I think between the bylaw we have, I think that you should just pack it up because you're not gonna be welcome here. We went through this stuff once before, we don't want to do it again. And if you're gonna do a job, do it well. I do have a problem with the town accepting blacktop from you because that's bribery.
It's not.
Greasing the wheels, that's bullshit, because you do not give away that much blacktop. It costs too much money. So you're not gonna admit it, I don't expect you to.
Yeah, but if I was allowed to utilize that road.
Well, what if you can't? Well, you just
Well,
gave us a gift.
Well, then, that's it.
But they shouldn't have taken
But-
it anyway.
Because it wasn't anything, there was no, I have not applied for anything as of yet.
Would
We
you do the
just
same if
submitted,
you came to visit me in my driveway and it needed paving?
what's that?
Would you do the same if you came into my driveway and it needed to be paved? Would you have a truckload of
Bond is
pavement
in
delivered
Spencer.
to my
Now,
driveway?
why on earth would you drag all that blacktop up here? It's 45 minutes, my friend was there. I go all the time.
Because if we did this and we utilized the roads, then I would want the roads to be in a better condition also.
Yeah, you need
Because
to with the
I agree with you. Royalston Road is horrible. And when I went up there and I saw what it looked like, I thought, you know what? It would show good faith that the way I run my company, I do for Spencer, I do for the Brookfields. And I contacted the highway superintendent and I contacted the town administrator.
Shame on them.
Yeah, there you
Shame
go,
on
kiddo.
them.
50 years.
One more time. Look at 26 Royston Road. same pattern as the last time. Last time you guys came in and tried this, the first thing we knew about it was when Ray here happened to notice that the Board of Health agent at the time was driving a brand-new Chevy Blazer with Templeton Board of Health on it, right outside his house, and he went over and asked Rich, "Hey,
Where'd it
Rich,
come from?"
Where'd it come from? It came from Casella. It was a gift to the town.
Right, but
Along with
this,
some-
but
with
what
a
I
large
did had
sum-
nothing to
excuse me,
do with
I'm talking
Casella.
here. It was a large sum of money. You're following the same pattern. You're starting off with, oh, we'll give you a few tons of whatever crap they put down the road, which was the worst job I've ever seen. That thing's gonna be gone. So you wasted your money doing that anyways. But that's your thing. You come in, you give us a little gift, and you get us on the hook. You call it a gift, all right? I can call it a bribe. But that's, you're calling it a gift. You can call it whatever you want. Still, you're not under oath. So I don't wanna hear about that. It's the same thing you guys did before. Try to hook us, and then you come in. And what's to stop you? Who's gonna be there every day to make sure you're offloading just the right amount?
Nobody.
And that it's tested. There's gonna be nobody there. And if we find you doing something wrong, then what's gonna happen? It's gonna cost us money to take you to court, to get you to stop it, unless we get the cops out there to prevent you from coming into that land to dump your crap. All right? So you've done it before, you know where you're at, you know who you are.
But what I did, just to let you know, what I did was from Bond Construction. They knew nothing about what I did. And it was because I saw with my own eyes what the town was doing. And that's how I conduct my business.
Are you under oath right now?
I sleep every night.
Why should we believe you?
Because you have no reason for you not to trust Bond. I mean, if you have an issue with Casella, okay, regarding past issues, or what have you, maybe you're justified.
Maybe?
I'm just saying, you have a right to feel the way that you feel. These are your feelings.
Yes.
However, I did this as Bond, and I did it because I saw what they were working with. I saw that all this money that your Chapter 90 funds were going to one other specific road, and they were left with $100,000 for Chapter 90. I talked to the highway superintendent, and when I talked to him, he knew absolutely nothing about anything until I said to him, my cost to manufacture something is significantly less than the town's ability to purchase it.
There are many roads like that in Massachusetts. Are you gonna take care of those too? Just as bad?
The whole point was, if the road is that bad, and I was to establish an earth removal permit or renew the one that's there, then a lot of that was for my own benefit, because I don't want broken leaf springs on the road, and it's dangerous, and I acknowledge what the road looked like. So for me to do that was as much to benefit Bond as to the people that travel on Route 68. There's, and I mean, you can certainly take it for however you choose, and I respect that.
Is it okay I have the floor
I was gonna
now?
say, yes. it's your turn.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to address the Board of Health. The
Could
cover.
you just state your name for us?
Joanne Burden, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank
And
you.
I'm in a butter, I live on Royalston Road, and I also serve on the Millers River Watershed Council. And I guess I just wanted to jump in quickly. If the Board of Health, you received this, and it said that if you didn't reply within 35 days,
Can't hear you.
if you didn't reply within 35 days, that they would deem that as being concurrence with this plan. You're aware of that, right? Okay. So you guys have not replied. So in other words, they're gonna interpret that you guys are okay with this plan, am I
We
correct?
wanted you guys to have
That's
all
why
of the
we wanted you to
information.
get
That's
the
why we got.
information.
Do we still have time, I guess, is my
Yes, we do.
question?
Yes,
Okay,
we do.
perfect. The original gravel removal permit did come with reclamation plans. Those reclamation plans called for that reclamation to be done with topsoil that was taken from the project and stockpiled and used. The original permit and its conditions are in non-compliance. With that being said, it seems to me it's a difficult decision for our local boards to permit something that never was in compliance, never got the certificate of completion for the stormwater from the planning board as well. And shouldn't it be reclaimed per the original conditions? Or why should we set conditions at all? Doesn't this set a very bad precedence for that? So, to come in with this material that is not listed in the original permit, the reclamation, to me, should be done as it was presented and conditioned by our local boards in the first place. Also, the zoning is in effect, and it is zoned, as you know, residential agricultural. Is this project allowable under the use, under the zoning use? Another thing that I think the town should really investigate is that this was a bonded project. This project was not completed in compliance with the regulations set forth by our local boards. Shouldn't the town be allowed to get that bond money? So, to me, I sat on the Conservation Commission for many years, Open Space Committee as well. If the original, and the same people still own it, I realize some people have passed away, but it's still in the family, and it is still owned by the Hicks family. So why should we condition anything if it isn't going to be complied with in the first place? In the way that it was set forth too. Now, I have to disagree with you on the reclamation. I have seen the area. I have worked in water resource and open space protection for many years, and so I think I have some knowledge. Also, on the Conservation Commission, we did go out and check on some reclamation, and some of that area is really coming back beautifully. The trees are growing in the area that has been reclaimed, and nature is actually doing a lot of reclaiming itself. So, to me, this would be an absolute detriment for this material to come in and possibly cover up what's already been reclaimed. Now, and that could very well happen. The material itself was not noted in the original conditions. Don't you agree, though, that this should be complied with, the original conditions as set forth by our local boards before we move on to any other permitting? How can our boards in this town say, okay, we're just gonna forget all about this, you didn't follow the conditions we set forth, but we're gonna go ahead and let you have a new permit? That sets a terrible precedence here, terrible.
I can't speak to this site in particular, and I'm not sure whether the topsoil that was originally intended for reclamation was removed and sold. I don't know enough about the
Well,
history
then
of the
again,
site.
I guess the town is entitled to this bond money.
It very well may be. That's certainly a valid point.
And I don't see why the local boards in town cannot take a look at this and go, they need to comply by these conditions that were set forth when we permitted this.
What's the date of the original permit?
The one was 2007, it was renewed, the last one was 2014. This one's 2010, but I think they renewed in 2014, and that was 3 years, so that's expired. And I did talk to them, and they said, you know, it is expired, but it's in non-compliance, expired. And they also didn't meet what was set forth by the planning board under the stormwater. And you know, that's an issue on the property right now. But I would really express to the Board of Health, please go out and take a look at the reclamation that does exist there. I think it's important for you to know what does exist. And I'm taking a look at it. It is come back. I mean, some of the trees are almost 20 feet tall that have come back. And there's some like shrub, sweet fern, and that's all naturally come in and stabilized the area. So I'm afraid they're gonna come in and disturb what's already been done that's already good. And they wanna take out more gravel, but now there, again, that the zoning would come in, is this an allowable use under the zoning laws that we have, right now? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I go first? Greg Griffiths, Templeton, Mass. My question is, how did the Board of Health monitor past reclamation on this land?
None of us were on the Board of Health at that time. Do you know, Lori? Mr. Tripolo might know. No? Okay, before you two.
There's
You don't have
usually
an
engineered
answer?
plans, and the engineered plans, in my past, was by the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Fine, and if I can just step in for a minute, the Conservation Commission is not jurisdictional unless it's in a water resource area. Conservation Commission did go out and check reclamation as a courtesy, because we're a reconnaissance type board for the Board of Selectmen, but the Board of Selectmen are the permitting authority and should have been overseeing, everything with the gravel pit. It was under their jurisdiction.
Thank you.
So it kind of slipped through the cracks. It slipped through the cracks. We didn't have the resources to monitor it properly. We didn't have the resources to hold their feet to the fire. We didn't have the ability to make sure that it was reclaimed properly.
But the onus is ultimately on the people doing the project to follow through with the conditions that were set forth by the planning board, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, and the Board of Selection.
So it slipped through the cracks. It's not really, our town government didn't have any teeth to make sure it was done properly, to monitor it, to make sure that they brought back the saved topsoil and put it back where it belongs, correct? So, how is history not gonna repeat itself? Do you have the resources to make sure that you hold their feet to the fire? Do you have the resources to make sure that they're not in violation of any agreements? Do you have the resources to make sure that this land is going to be appropriately monitored and maintained? That's just one issue, and the answer to that is pretty obvious to me. You don't. Beyond that, Templeton is very high up in terms of elevation, and the water from Templeton flows down in multiple directions, ends up in the Odor River, in the Millers River, and ends up being a water source to other communities going down the Connecticut. And going in the other way, it ends up being water that flows into the Burnshirt River, to the Ware River, to the MDC. I would like to know, who is the DEP person that you have been communicating with?
I have their contact information, I'll give you.
Okay, I'm listening. Go
I'll
ahead.
I'll hand you, I made copies of his name and address.
Okay, Brian Postale, Postale, Manager, Engineering Permit, Mass DEP, Central Regional Office, 8 New Bond Street, Worcester, Mass. 01606. Okay, there's good contact information.
He's the person that reviews the application, so he's the only person at the DEP that we work with. He's the person for Worcester County.
So he would be the person that would say that whatever comes out from your reclamation project is safe to eventually work its way into our rivers and into our water supplies and into our wells and that kind of thing. He's aware of this?
Yes.
He also relies on information from the engineering consultants that go out and do the monitoring on the site as part of putting the permit together, and he also does on-site inspections as well.
Okay. That's important. I understand that there are other people here who may have questions. And I'll yield the floor. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Vilma Hendricken. I live on the Royalston Road. And I live about less than a mile from where you spread that stuff the last time. I can't believe that that sludge doesn't have all kinds of chemicals in it. My question is, and what bothers me the most, is smelling that stuff is the worst smell I have ever smelled in my entire life. And I can't believe that that smell is going to do anything for your health. I'm afraid of the health issue. That's what bothers me. I have no idea what this stuff is mixed, what's in it, but I know when they make paper, there's chemicals in that paper. So there's got to be chemicals in this crap that you're going to dump on us. And I'm worried for the health issue. You can't tell me that smelling that stuff day in and day out is good for your health. That's all I've got to say.
Good.
I'm Claudine Wheeler. I live at 39 Gavin Road, the house closest to your operation. The long history with the operations out behind our house, as Bob Perkins had it prior and hauled. He actually told my father, who is passed, that there was no more gravel to be hauled. So I'm amazed that now there's 25 acres of usable gravel. I know that's a whole separate issue from the Board of Health. Are you the Board of Health members?
Yes.
These three right here. I ask you, please protect our home from whatever. We've been down this road with the landfill. I ask you to please, let's not repeat history. Let's learn from our lessons and not let this happen to our community again. Every single one of us has a well out there. They can't protect that. They can't guarantee that our well water will be protected. Our property value will be zero. I can't, well, yeah, lessons are, how long is this project supposed to last?
Which project?
Your project, the bringing in of the paper materials.
Seasonally, a couple, 3 years. Depends on the weather.
Okay.
Why does it say 14 years on it? 14.7 years in this proposal.
Okay, when you read the application, that DEP application is designed so that the amount of material, everything is at trace levels. So the DEP application is designed to meet, Clark, help me with this one, on the years of application.
It's the regulatory, it's the regulatory
it's a
limits for the
regulatory-
loading rates. So you could ostensibly continue to apply material successively for up to whatever it was, 14.7 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But that really doesn't have any relevance for our application. We'll be applying it in a much shorter period of time and wrapping up the
Once,
project.
we're applying it once, and the DEP application, because that's just the way the regulators set these things up. They want to know what the loading limits are for many, we're not doing it for 14 years, obviously.
But you could.
But you can, that's your proposal. You could come back for 14.7 years.
That's,
No.
That's the proposal. I don't care if the DEP.
No, they wouldn't, it gets renewed every year, and it would never be renewed to that level you're asking.
Then it should not be in the proposal that you have written, because that's what this town is looking at. We are looking at a proposal as citizens. I don't work for the DEP. I don't do your job. I don't do your job.
but
And
that's
I
the
don't do your
application,
job.
that's
I'm
the
proud of you, but I don't do your job.
I understand.
And so, when you wrote that proposal, why did you write 14.7 years if, and it's an important if you were only gonna take 2 to 3, why does that not show up in this proposal?
Because that's the way the application is
No,
written.
you should have, you had lots of places in the back of that proposal where you told me, as a citizen, you were gonna come out and take care of any smells. That's what it says in there. Now, I don't think the DEP said, Jim Davy, or however you pronounce it, I'm sorry, is gonna be the person that's always gonna take that out. If you could put your name in that proposal as handling the smells, then you very well should have had in that proposal that this is a single layer application. Right now, everyone in this town believes 14.7 years. I don't care what you say. That's the proposal. It does not matter to any one of us. 14.7 years, multiple layers
I
is
can-
what that proposal says.
I don't believe the proposal, it's, number one, it's not a proposal, it's an application. We have to follow the template that's provided to us by the DEP, which
I
is
get
intended
that.
for a broad range of applications,
This, we
including.
don't care about a broad
excuse me,
range.
including agricultural applications, which is where they're looking at the loading rates. This is a soil reclamation project.
That's not clear.
I can understand, but again, this is the template that we complete per the
get it.
Massachusetts DEP.
That's good. There should have been an addendum.
And I can appreciate your concerns, and that's what we're here. We're here to answer questions for you
Then I
tonight.
need it in writing, thank you very
We would
much,
be
that
de-
says.
We're happy to put it in writing for you.
This is 2 to 3 years, single layer. Smells are adjusted every day. I mean, honestly, everybody's looking at a 14.7 year. That's why you're getting crap.
Okay.
Because this says 14.7
We,
years.
we can clarify that, that's no problem.
In writing,
And
and
we can
notarized
also-
by somebody,
That's fine.
and an attorney,
We
and
can
a
also-
Board of Health, and testing
We can also-
information for every single time that those tests have been done at Irving. You're telling me you got all that information? Where is it? Not here.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
Mrs. Wheeler finished, thank you.
It is true that it was reclaimed poorly. The town did not pursue the owners of the property. I just don't want that to happen again. And I implore you, please, protect us from this happening again. I'm sorry, I know you're a businessman and you're trying to do your thing, but I don't want his business in my backyard. Now, one other question. As far as the smell control, for the odor control, I heard that sulfur is one of the products used. Is that true?
For odor control? No.
Of the sludge.
For like when there's an issue with odor. I thought I had read somewhere that there was sulfur contained in the products used.
That's the byproduct.
Okay, so if you have an allergy to sulfur and you live in that area, is that is that going to affect the environment? Is there sulfur as a
I've never heard
byproduct?
the sulfur question, Clark.
It's in here.
I just-
That's just
something I
one,
read
that's
about.
one of the elements that's trace levels are tested for. And the 14-year thing, that's a good one, because in 10 years, I've never been asked that question.
What's in your application?
It's not my application, it's the DEP application. We can clarify that.
You have Earthlife Casella Organics right smack dab on the front.
That's the cover. But the-
Doesn't matter.
The part with the 14 years is the DEP application.
No.
You can also, feel free, take a walk out back. It is gloriously starting to reclaim itself. We have bear, deer, all that good stuff.
Good.
So let's not
Appreciate your
disturb
assessment.
them. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
have something else, Rich. One more time.
Okay, so, hi, Rick Triplo, 226 Road, and I'm
We
not
know
running
ya.
for, I'm not running for office. Again.
Too late.
So, if I understand correctly, this proposal, of which I also have a copy, so most of it is what, boilerplate that the DEP says you gotta write, right, stuff like that, right? That's boilerplate, that's guidelines for you writing the contract. You put in 14 years. You put that in there, you wrote that in. Whether DEP says this is what you should put in or not, you put it in, and just like you did the last time when you said, we're only bringing in, what, 80 tons a day to the landfill, but in the contract, okay, and you used exactly the same argument last time too, that this is the way you had to write it up. It was gonna go to, and I can't remember the figure, somebody helped me, but it was in the hundreds of tons that you were gonna be allowed to expand into. All right, doing the same thing again. You're claiming it's boilerplate, but it's in there. As soon as that goes in, as soon as somebody makes it official, you got your 14 years, and that means we have to stop you from doing it, which is gonna cost us time and money. Again, I beg the Board of Health, please, do protect us, protect my breathing, okay? Thank you.
Good.
Hi,
You got it.
Harry Griffiths, 12 Dory Lane, here as a citizen. I just had a quick question. If you cook the sewage, I know everybody's talking about the sewage as part of the mix, but do you cook it or is it got polymers in it? And could you speak to the polymers that you would use to treat the sewage? Because they could be even worse than the sewage itself.
The sewage itself is not cooked as part of this process, so it is not cooked. Polymers are used in the dewatering process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, not cooked process, but it's using polymers.
Polymers are used in the dewatering process, yes.
Could you speak to the polymers that you use? How dangerous they are? I don't think anybody in this room would have a clue of what the polymers that, one of them could take a hand off if you got a drop. And how many, if you put one drop, how many gallons does it take to dissolve one drop of the polymer that you use to treat the sewage?
So the polymers that are used in the wastewater treatment process are either anionic or cationic. None are hazardous in the terms that you're speaking of. They are all, I can't speak as to exactly what Irving uses in their process, but those would be rated for human contact in the way that wastewater treatment operators would be utilizing them on a day-to-day basis. There may be standard precautions that they need to follow when utilizing them. They may have to use eye protection, but in terms of causing caustic burns or anything like that, there are no polymers I'm aware of that are used in the wastewater process that would cause that type of side effect.
So you're
Excuse
saying
me, so
you
you're not
have no
aware?
idea what they're using or what's going into it?
That's what he said, yeah.
So
No,
what's going
that,
in there?
I'm sorry, that's not what I said. I said I'm not aware of whether Irving uses anionic or cationic polymers or a mixture of both. The material gets tested at the end of the process with the polymers utilized for the dewatering process included in that testing regimen. These are widely utilized throughout the whole of the wastewater treatment industry, and
Doesn't make them safe. Just because it's widely used.
okay, I would beg to differ with you on that one, but
Pete Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. I just, as a wastewater treatment plant commissioner, sewer commissioner in town, we had a contract with Irving Paper Mills and Baldwin Mill Products, and all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed, and the state knew about it, the DEP was involved, the EPA, and this went on for a few good years, and then they signed an assumption agreement between another firm coming into town, American Tissues, and at that point in time, that was totally illegal what they did. And with these big corporations, I guess the point I'm trying to get is that no matter what you have in writing, signed by all the major people, they still walked away and left us with $30 million of expenses, and that's in 1996 dollars. This is the Irving Paper Mill that wants to bring their sludge to Baldwinville. They've already taken us to the dance. They've had their fun with us. and they've left us holding the bag. So now, I think the town, there may be some sore feelings about Irving Paper Mill. The people that worked there, that lost their pensions through the American Tissue that was illegally assigned, the assignee and assumption agreement at the wastewater treatment plant, it was just a total fiasco. Every time the town seems to get in bed with these corporations, they don't wake up a virgin.
Thank you. Fran Yakowski, 227 Royalston Road. I also was on the Board of Health when we had to close the original landfill. And I remember as a child being told that the best place to put the landfill was right in some gravel and right up against wetlands. 25 years, 30 years later, they say, that's not a good idea. We then had to figure out how we were going to pay to close the landfill and that. My question to you is, you've been doing this for what, 10 years, you said? Mhm.
What is the long-term effect of it? Yeah, fine, right now, maybe things are okay. But what happens 20 years from now, 25 years from now, and people getting very sick? Our wells are polluted. The town's wells are polluted. Who's gonna take care of us? Where's the money's gonna come to fix our road 5 years from that here, 10 years from there? So what are the long-term effects of studying this sludge being put down? Is there anything, you've only got 10 years, but I know in other places, cancers come 25 years later, 40 years later. Who's gonna be responsible for taking care of those people? So I asked the Board of Health, let's not go down that road. It's just too dangerous. We just don't know what's gonna happen.
Chad Keeney, I live in the Back Bay area. I also am a land abutter to the proposed Gavin Road project. I only learned about this within the last couple of days, so I haven't had any time to really research anything regarding to the waste that's going to be dumped here. So I'm just gonna kind of strip all that away for a moment, and I just want to talk to what I see here in this room. What I see are a lot of local people here who are compromised of people who've lived in this town for probably most of their lives. They've seen good things come through the town. They've seen questionable things come through this town. So my first question would be, these are only comments, they're not questions directed to anyone else other than myself for a follow-up meeting, would be standing here as a town, forgetting about what we're gonna dump. If we're gonna dump fertilizer, sludge, whatever it is, what do we benefit as a town from allowing this to happen? I don't see much here, other than reclaiming a sand pit. The town is basically compromised of sand pits. Anyone who's lived here, we know we have sand pits all over the place. So I doubt we're gonna wash away, or we're gonna really have some significant impact on the environment if we live status quo. And I'm not suggesting that's what we do. The other thing that really hit home to me was when you said the current owner, his parents died, he has tons of money, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the land, he doesn't care what happens out here, which is a great opportunity for you, but we care. We live here, and this is our land, and this is where we've all grown up, and we're probably gonna continue to grow up. Our kids and grandkids are gonna grow up here as well. So I understand that the current landowner doesn't care, like his parents before him didn't care. They didn't reclaim the land like they were supposed to. At the end of all that, regardless of the sludge, the reports, what's supposed to be in the material, how much of it's supposed to come in or not come in, I just ask, if we're a pretty diverse group of people here and we don't want it, why are we even having this conversation? Let's not get down into the nitty-gritty of what's in the compost, where is it gonna leak, are the birds, the bees, the deer gonna eat it? We don't want it here. We don't want it here. That's the end of the story.
And there's a lot more of us.
I don't want to hog the mic here. Pete Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. I brought this subject up. I work at a wastewater treatment plant down in Fitchburg. And my boss says, geez, Pete, he says, we just got back from a PFAS conference. And I says, well, what the heck is that?
It doesn't sound
He
good.
says, that's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. I says, well, what does that have to do with our situation in Templeton? He says, well, out west, he says, they're closing, they're not allowing any more land application of anything because of this particular chemical. This is the stuff that's in fire retardants. It's a fluoride substance made during the war, and then it carried on with the industry. So out west in California, he says, in the western states, they've stopped land application entirely due to this chemical that they didn't even know they didn't even test for it before, but they're testing for it now, and they feel it's causing big, big problems. So is this going to be a situation where we put this material down, and then a few years later we find out that there's something in this sludge that causes something similar to the PFAS that they're not even testing for? I don't know. I just think that this may be a bad idea.
Good point, Pete.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Here's Julie.
I'm Julie Farrell, 24 Myrtle Street. That's my husband, Pete. I would like to ask a couple of questions about the gravel permit. Is the gravel permit going to go before the Board of Selectmen for approval?
It would have
Has to.
Okay.
The answer to that is yes.
Huh? I have more questions, I'm sorry. Okay, so the Board of Selectmen would have to approve the gravel permit. Okay. I would also like to know, at the Irving wastewater treatment plant, do they bring in septage from other companies or out of town?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Do we know which companies?
I don't have a list with me, but it's
Okay.
local people that do that work. Yes.
Okay, are there any commercial or industrial?
No commercial.
No commercial, industrial?
Well, that would be the same, wouldn't it?
Get a list, Julie.
Sometimes.
I would like a list of the people, you're right. Okay, who bring in out-of-town septage. We had an issue at the wastewater treatment plant in Templeton, in Baldwinville, in the mid-90s, where this town was covered by a toxic fog. And after a lot of research, a lot of meetings, we found out that the contract operators, News, okay, was bringing in substances from Pioneer Plastics in Auburn, Maine. Toxic, hazardous, cancerous chemicals from Auburn, Maine. And nothing was ever done.
And people got sick,
People got sick.
very sick.
That's why I want to know what is going into the Irving wastewater treatment plant. My other question is, why is Irving on the application? I don't understand why Irving is on the application. The town of Irving is named in the second page.
They
the app-
own the treatment plant
Right, but,
at the paper mill.
right, I understand they own the treatment plant at the paper mill, but why are they doing the application?
Clark, what's the legality of why their name is on there?
I believe it's because they hold the approval of suitability for the material that's being utilized. So it's technically their approval of suitability under which the application is being filed.
Okay, and that's per DEP or, okay, all right. My other question is, have any tests been done on volatile organic compounds?
Yes, that is included in the testing regimen.
Okay, because I don't believe it's included in the report.
we can share the testing with you, that's no
Okay.
problem.
My other question is, if this goes through and there are odor complaints, what do you do to mitigate the odor?
It's gonna get mixed in almost immediately, so that mitigates any odor situations.
Right. What do you do if you get an odor complaint after you've done your process?
There usually isn't odor once it's mixed 1-to-1 with sand.
That wasn't the question.
It's the agricultural sites that, where you spread it with a manure spreader,
Mhm.
and it fluffs it up, that's where the odor issues tend to be, not with this kind of operation, where it's dumped, blended 1-to-1 with the sand, and then laid out.
Right, but if you were to get an odor complaint, what process, what do you do to mitigate that odor?
Well, I've never had an odor complaint on this style of operation, but we have wood ash that we put on top.
Okay, so you'd use wood
We have an
ash.
odor control plan for other agricultural sites with wood ash. And that would be, we could do that, but generally the mixing of 1-to-1 with sand doesn't have an odor issue.
Okay, so, but you have the wood ash just in case there's? Okay, all right, thank you. I also think this is a really bad idea.
Another question. All right, we saw it with the other trucks
Just,
going down
could
the
you
road.
say your name? Yeah.
My name's Dave Du Bois, I'm at 139 Rollston Road, right across from North Cross Hill. Anyway, we saw it with the other trucks coming in. As soon as the trucks started coming in, the road started falling apart. The edges of the road were breaking off. There was holes in the road constantly. Nobody was really responsible for doing that. Traffic by my house, it was dangerous. I had 4 children. They couldn't even go up by the road at any time during the day whatsoever. It was, what happened to the road was horrendous. I worked for a road company. If you wanna come put some tar down, dig all the tar off completely. Dig it down 3 feet. Then use the gravel that's in that pit and put a nice base down. Then put the road down, you know, nice thick tar, you know, maybe 3-4 inches. Then put a top coat. But anyways, I can't see that road standing up to the traffic and the trucks. There's no possible way. The sides of those roads are gonna break and they're gonna fall off. And every time any one of us is gonna go down that road, we're gonna be breaking tie rods, we're gonna bearings, our vehicles are getting destroyed on that road. What you did, I thought it was the town. I thought, wow, this is kinda weird, cause usually they come in to patch the holes so we don't fall into the holes. But what they did was a little bit better, but that's gonna break up within a year, just with normal traffic.
Or snow.
Or snow and ice and the plows. That's not gonna last. That road is not gonna, it's not gonna withstand 2 or 3 years of traffic, that kind of traffic. It's just not gonna stand it. And everybody on that road, and people going on that road, it's a danger. It's really a danger. So I just wanna bring that point up, that it's a danger to all of the people that live on that road and all the way up to Royalston that are gonna be traveling on that road.
Should
It's
be
not gonna
listed as-
stand up. It just isn't.
Pass at your own risk.
Well,
I'd like to add something too. I'm his neighbor, and he's my brother, Tom Du Bois, 119 Rollston Road. And they built they put tar at the end of my driveway and built it up, so I have a 6-inch lip there now that I had to get my son in the last 2 or 3 days to come out and fill it in with tar that he got from one of his construction sites. So already it's been causing me problems, what he did. So I just want to add that.
Well, it's kinda hard to blame these people, they haven't even been on the damn road yet. Danny Burton doing the road to begin with.
Yeah.
That road was put in like 1940.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done a damn thing to it. It's falling apart no matter who drives over it.
That's right.
When the condition it in now would probably improve it. But I worked with Jim Talby, and years ago I was doing the same thing they're doing now. In fact, I pioneered the use of that sludge on for topsoil. I did a lot of them. I did closed landfills with it, Hubbardston, Coleraine, Montague, all that area up there, on the western part of the state. And we had the same problems with odor, but we were putting it down 3 foot thick. And, that's pretty thick on these 3-to-1 slopes. They're gonna put it down a foot thick. Mixed with sand, we put it down pure and compacted it the best we could to close the landfills, to keep the permeability was very 10 to the -7. The water wouldn't penetrate it that easy. We planted it. It grew good crops and everything, and on the slopes, it worked great, especially on the 3-to-1. It's so steep, if it was just a foot thick, it would hold the slopes against erosion and everything. It's been I've been working with it since 1980, before 1988. And I worked with it, and wasn't so good. Since then, the DVP, made them clean up their acts all over the country. It's, I don't blame everybody, they don't know much about it. But, the chemical and the analyticals that, the state reviews all that, I'm assuming, like they used to. So, they're not gonna let you put something down that's gonna be poisonous or anything like that. So, you're doing pretty good to take all this abuse, I'll tell you that.
And what's your name?
Red Tolman,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I'd just like to ask Red Tolman if he has financial interest in this particular project.
Yes, I was hoping to feather my own nest.
So if I can just ask one or two more questions. Do you intend to the areas that have already been reclaimed, where the trees are growing in real nicely, do you intend to put this material to cut down what's already been growing real nicely and put this material there as well? You wouldn't ruin the reclamation that's already taken place.
No, there's a map in the application of the reclamation outlines. The wetlands have been delineated, and that brings us into the pit quite a bit.
I think kind of like as you come in off to the left.
Yes, that's all out of,
That's all been reclaimed.
well, that's actually within the wetland, 200-foot buffer, that area. So that wouldn't be included. When you drive into the road, the area off to the left, it was mined by previous operations, but that's actually within the 200-foot buffer. And now there's small pine trees growing in there.
Right, and and it looks like, and then even as you go further down from there, like I said, there's a lot of shrub, and would you be going over that area that's already naturally being reclaimed? Would you be putting material over that as well?
On the base and the bottom, yes. There's really not a whole lot of vegetation on the floor of the gravel pit.
And, Isn't the wetlands on the right as you come in? Like when you
And that's over in the back. That's not in it.
the property, there's wetlands.
That's not an area we're gonna work in,
Okay.
or propose to work in. It's all down in,
Okay.
and the floor and off to the left, but not at the top.
I guess the only other question is, the people that own the property, and you talked about a wildlife sanctuary, because this land does, abut already protected lands. Our river, we're worried about our river and our watershed. Our river has sustained, significant impacts over the years. And you say that that is their intention, but I suppose I would need something more confirming that, yes, once we've done this reclamation, as you've explained it today, the material is safe. Here it is, wildlife sanctuary. Are the people still gonna own it? Is there intention to turn it over to a state entity, to put it in a land trust, do you know?
Landvest is interested in the property, because they just purchased some of the land for fish and, they were the agent that purchased the land for Fish and Wildlife from the Fernald School. And that agency that procures the land is interested and putting this land into conservation, yes.
And, you know, we would have a definite on that.
Well, that's not my call.
Yeah, ultimately, that's up to the landowner, it's
Yeah.
private property.
Right, but I would, you know.
We've suggested it.
It's, so actually, you say, you know, maybe it would be a beautiful wildlife sanctuary, but that's not going to be set in stone that that's actually gonna happen, that it's gonna be afterwards protected land.
Well, there's no real frontage to the property, even though it's so vast. So, once everything is completed, the landowner and the trustee of the property would have no interest in it. So, we had a meeting and we suggested that that would be probably the best thing for them to do. We've suggested it.
Right, because if it isn't turned over, in a sense, they're going to continue to pay real estate tax.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly, okay. And I just wanted to touch base on the solar field, but, you know, because that is very popular and I am very much for renewable energies, but there's no three-phase out there.
On a site that large, they'd put poles in.
Do you think they would?
Absolutely.
But at this time, there isn't.
No, it would have to go down to Route 202. And I live in West Brookfield, and it's happening all the time. They're putting poles in any open land. My piece of property happens to be preserved by the state APR, Agricultural Preservation Rights. And that's been 90% of my work, is with state-controlled farmland. So they can't put solar on those. The landowner wouldn't be interested in having us make this proposal if they weren't interested in having it be turned into conservation. And they know that the surrounding land uses are Army Corps and Fish and Wildlife. And like they've expressed interest in it, but they don't want it the way it looks.
Okay, so I thank you very much for coming here, taking the time to explain things to us and to the Board of Health. And we put it out there and hopefully you'll address some of the, concerns that we have.
And I did bring business cards, so if anybody has any questions or concerns, you're welcome to take a card and contact me. I would be happy to talk to anybody if they have any follow-up questions.
Any more did you have another question, Mr.?
No.
Oh, okay.
Where does this go from here?
Yes.
I guess that would be great. Yeah.
Next question. I believe it goes to the Board of Selectmen from here.
Planning Board,
for our
December
decision.
10th.
Thank
so
you.
They
Yeah,
filed the
December
permit
10th.
with Carter, but he hasn't seen it yet because he doesn't come in till tomorrow. Just let me know.
Let's go to the planning board.
So, stormwater permit was in on Thursday to Carter's desk and the application for the planning board, so that's gotta get past the planning board, the stormwater permit first.
And that's on December 10th.
December 10th,
So that's the next step.
that's the next step.
I just want to say I'm sorry, I've lost my cool several times. But, I appreciate that you clarified many things from this, but honestly, you really need to fix your proposal process. I know you didn't write it,
It's not mine, it's the
I know you didn't write it,
DEP's.
but
It makes sense to them.
it doesn't make sense to the community, and that's the issue.
I have a question.
Okay.
Does the planning board at this time have the opportunity to disallow the landfill or the people in?
The permit?
Hmm?
The permit?
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I know, they do. That's up to them, but I'm not on the planning board, so.
I mean, can you,
We can make a recommendation to them.
but you have no authority to not allow them in?
Not as the Board of Health. I don't believe so. I'm like looking at Lori saying,
You
I
make a
don't-
recommendation.
We make a recommendation, that's it.
I suggest everybody that you can contact the planning board. We have emails, send letters to the town office.
What is the planning board meeting in regards to? Is it regards to the drainage?
So the first, yes, that's the
Are they
first
gonna be
permit that
doing
has to.
retention ponds like they
What the hell,
have in
that's no
every
good.
development?
That was on the,
Okay, well, they can't even maintain the retention ponds that they have in all the developments, so they're gonna be able to maintain the retention ponds here?
that's,
Have to go.
that's a question.
Anybody else have an issue? I know
This
that
is
we've
the
been
Board of
maintaining-
Health.
Yeah.
We don't do
And
the
we're not
retention
planning board. We
ponds.
don't, that's not our jurisdiction, so.
You'll have to contact the planning board.
As Mrs. Griffith says, contact the planning board and give them your,
Feedback, yeah,
Feedback.
or go December 10th.
Go December
Show up on
10th.
December 10th,
will they
7
be
o'clock,
surprised?
What's your role gonna be in this?
6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
December
Our
10th.
role is recommendations, and we listen to all of you.
Which is
at
why we
this
set
time.
this up.
Which is why this was set up, because this young man over here asked us to. I believe it was you, wasn't it?
No,
Oh,
in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry, in the back, sorry. Wrong color hair.
Quiet as a church mouse
He's
back
very
there.
quiet back there. I'm like thinking, not you, sorry. Way back there.
But I would hope that our local boards would be able to deny permits because the original permits were not complied with. I would think that that would be a good basis to be able to not issue another permit.
Yeah, if they get the money to hire an expensive lawyer to deal with all this stuff in Boston, they should have enough money to take care of their own business.
I got $20,000 of my taxes.
Yeah.
None of mine.
Are there any other questions? Oh, I was gonna say,
So what
yes.
is your or when will we know your recommendation?
As soon as we have it.
We need to discuss it.
We
Will
have,
it be online?
you know, I think that, I thought our minutes and everything go online. They're supposed to
I
be.
just can't
so-
find them.
I will
Just-
double check them
Yeah,
because I'm the one who scans them and puts them on,
I
so.
can't find them. I don't know how to get there.
Did you put your email on there?
No, but I will.
Please do.
and right beside it, that's what you're asking for.
And so then you write a letter to the DEP? Is that how it works, letting them know? Because that's what you told me, that, you know, that you guys had 30 or 35 days to respond to them?
Yes.
We're gonna have to have a
Yes.
town meeting.
I hope not.
Oh, we gotta get some
Seriously?
answers here somehow.
I know.
Last time, I went up and down, I collected, well, we actually, we collected 1,500 signatures. Because it wasn't on a town warrant. I wouldn't wanna do that again, but might have to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, they get to discuss stuff in private.
Gentlemen, I must applaud your complete patience because we're in
Nice to meet you.
sort of all the time trying to how it works. And if there's something system probably closer to the well, whether the variance you can get up to 50 feet.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne.
Based on all the stuff that you have, which if that was a perk, I mean,
It's
I
difficult,
understand it, but.
But I also understand their concerns.
Oh,
too,
absolutely,
because
I do. I
Especially
understand.
given the history here with the, I think a lot of people
Yeah, I
have a
think-
negative connotation with
Yeah.
Casella. You know, the unfortunate thing is, the woman pointed out, you know, 200 lawsuits, we've been kicked out all these states. I've been this, particularly working organics for 25 years. I don't think there isn't a town that I would hesitate to go back to where we've done a project. Granted, a lot of the people are all gone that I work with, but where they weren't pleased with the final result. Either that, or they certainly weren't disappointed.
Oh, I talked to an engineer on a site the other day, and what they're mumbling about is that
Did you want to go to the minutes of the last meeting?
which I told the guy that you can get rid of it, selling it. So he said,
It did look good when I looked at them before.
they're not gonna do it, he donated land, they wouldn't take it.
I know.
So everybody's like,
They-
tell her how to
I'll get
pave.
'em. Don't worry about it.
By material.
Thank you.
The town doesn't know how to pave, I work for paving communities, I've seen, it's not.
They paved it with a grader.
Right, so it's just one of those things, and I was working with an engineer, who started engineering, and he paved.
Nobody wants to hear it, but I've got this third-party review.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up that we were talking about it. I just said, hey, have you heard of it? I said, oh, yeah. He said, he's in Littleton. He said, we've used a bunch of projects. He goes, great. He goes, the nitrogen, that. He goes, grass grew awesome. He goes, it's great. Ball field. He goes, he goes, I can't say enough good things about it. And I said, oh, well, I go.
Did you look at the
he goes,
minutes,
"You can
Earl?
buy the smell."
Have you looked at the
Lori, I
minutes?
have a,
Are they good?
Yeah, fine.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Minutes,
Yes.
okay, Laura.
Thanks,
Go
Laura.
ahead.
The,
had a similar situation next door in Hubbardston, and they had a third-party reviewer review the paper.
As Jim mentioned,
This
it's
is
worse
his
on the
report.
regular land
we have
acquisition
it?
projects where we're spreading out field, because we're not doing it with soil.
yeah, it's like anybody, what farmer can put their chicken shit,
They're
before they kill it
finding
in.
are that it's
I mean, that just stinks to high hell, but it's gone in a day as soon as they kill it. It's just, it's hard to explain
Previous
to.
time had
I don't know how we're gonna go with this, but I just.
relative to this.
Tough crowd.
And then I'll give this to you, I mean, because obviously nobody wanted to look at it. But this is,
It's not done until.
3
we're
different
done with our
projects
staff, stays on
that we've
hold.
just used the material in our own pits for reclamation.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not that
This
much.
is in the one that's, our permit is under the Farm Bureau. So this area here is a giant, what we call esker of gravel. So this is all under 61A, so it's a big farm in Ware. The planning board in Ware is the permitting authority.
Thank you
So
guys for
they
coming.
Thank you.
So I'm
go
just,
along with it
I'm a little
because the Farm
confused
Bureau
as to what the
approved
next
permit.
process for me
So
is,
this is just
because
what it looked
she's
like
the
before we started.
stormwater. So
This is when we first started here, and we're
I
heading
just turned in a
towards the south.
document.
So
We
this
had
was in
similar
2010.
situation in Templeton next door.
This is in
Um,
2013,
this
so
is
this is
Templeton.
phase 1.
I mean Hubbardston, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
Now
talking
I'm
about
confused,
third-party
so-
review?
Yeah, so they had
This I just
me,
took off of,
they hired a
Google.
third-party
So
reviewer
here's
Yeah.
that
phase
they made
1,
us pay for,
and we're in
and then they
phase
had
2.
their consultant
Now, this
review
is
that third
after
party.
we had brought in the
And I just
paper fiber
handed that in,
from Casella,
and
and
it shows the
um,
material to be
she
benign.
chose
All
the
this
type of seed that
landfill
she
talk.
wanted because obviously
I
she
think there's a
wanted
lot
I think
of.
it's coming
tough
with
because
that
the
name on
history.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
and
is-
it's like, this was, I was a dairy farmer when all that was going on. And this material, you know, banned in other states, that's not what we do.
This
And
is looking across, this is the
You know,
area
this,
that's
this
been
practice,
reclaimed.
this land, this reclamation process, I mean, Jim said he's
So
been
this
doing
is
it for
the
10
field
years, but
that
we've
we
been doing
did,
this for in
and
excess
that's with the paper fiber.
of 27 or 28. at this
Obviously,
point.
it has the seed on it,
And,
she's hated.
A lot of those
does
initial
3
sites
cuttings a
had
year.
monitoring wells. And it was only after demonstrating for years that we didn't have any leaching of nutrients or anything, any of the heavy
Yeah,
metals.
so I mean, that's the whole
I think
idea,
that-
you know,
I
it's
mean,
like, it's trying to
like
make
I said,
it.
I don't know how we're gonna talk about this in length, I'm sure, and take everybody's into account.
This is our own pit, Cranberry,
But
Cranberry Road in
might-
Spencer.
I'm not sure how the planning board's gonna go, I can't speak.
So
for them,
this is our
but I
pit
think
here,
there's
we still
probably gonna
own this,
be
and some of it's in,
a
it's still
lot of
active, but these are the big
stipulations if
areas
they
that
were to
we
let you
chose
guys
to
in.
reclaim.
well, it
That's
sounds
my
like they've
feeling
got
on
their
it.
mind
what
made
it
up
looks like
against
now.
Casella, 'cause that's,
And that's, I think that's,
And
Which is too
these
bad,
pictures
and
I
that's
just
the
took
biggest
in
hurdle.
September.
That's unfortunate
So
because,
this is all,
I know you
you
got
know,
nothing to
just
do with it.
gravel.
yeah, well, and for every host agreement that's gone poorly, we have ones that have gone really well and the community's really appreciated
And then
as
the
well,
last one was
so
Westbrook Field,
It's,
that we did, which is this area
it's
here.
tough.
This
And
is
it's a tough
a
business
different
because,
adjacent pit.
you know, we're,
To many, it seems a lot of unknowns
That's the
Yeah.
pit
and
there,
change and
after the paper fiber
What
was
they-
brought in.
perceived before, so.
And I took these pictures today.
well, and the fact that we deal with
So that's what it
you know,
looks like
waste
now.
products.
Waste products,
or
yeah.
what's perceived as waste products, and we try to repurpose and keep
Jane.
out of the landfills.
And members, just so you know, Karen is leaving the portfolio that she
Okay,
put together.
Thank you.
So that any residents that wanna take a peek at it can feel free to come into the office and look at the differences.
These are three different pits that we've done where we needed to utilize the paper fiber from Casella. So went through the same thing, did the permitting. different towns, like, I believe it's with Ware it's Planning Board, Town of Spencer was Conservation, and West Brookfield was the Earth Removal Board. So depending on the town, depends on who goes over it. But the pictures really speak for themselves. I mean, I wish that they would have looked at them, you know, to see what the product is after the fact. But, you know, I will leave these with you, and it's pretty much self-explanatory as far as what the pictures are.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know, maybe you can answer a question. You know, you said that somebody was haying it. How long does it take before, if that's what they decide, how long would it
You mean a
take?
farm site?
Well, say,
No, where
for
the-
example,
Like
say,
Irene,
yeah,
she's-
say- I mean, they say they have, I believe, you said
Said it was 10 years. I
it's
haven't-
28 acres or something of, but, I mean, say they wanted to hay that, the town wanted to hay that for revenue, I don't know,
You
for
can-
whatever
you
reason.
can, there's no restrictions on hay. It's it's because of that 2% biosolids that's in the paper fiber,
Mhm.
it puts us into the biosolid regulations, which has a 36-month root crop.
38.
38-month root crop. We're not growing root crops, it's just hay. on
Right.
all or cow corn, which is above the ground.
Right.
So it's an overly conservative.
Can't have carrots.
No
So-
carrots, no turnips, yeah, okay. Okay, but so if they wanted to hay it, for example, in 3
That would be
years.
fine.
they
That would
could
be-
hay
You could
it.
hay it the next year. In
Oh.
fact, we had a pit we did in Sandborn, New Hampshire. It was a truly like a septic sand pit, I mean, clean sand. Did the reclamation in.
I'm gonna put additional cards in,
sometime
so if they choose
August,
to, they can take some.
September timeframe. It's about an 8-acre site. He took his first crop off, first week in June the following year. And it's still, you can see it from Route 93 if you're driving up to the mountains, but there's still, it's a beautiful hay lot.
Where's that?
To this day, in Sandborn, New Hampshire.
Oh, I'm driving up that way in a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah,
so-
I'll just show you this first picture while I'm here to explain. So this one is under the Farm Bureau that we are doing in Ware on Babcock Tavern Road. So this is all in 61A, and it's actually much larger. But this here is a giant esker of gravel, so it's very peaked, you know, you couldn't farm it. So this is in 2009 before we started.
Directors for.
When we first came in, we treed this area and we started
He had an
moving,
event
this
tonight
would
that
be
he couldn't
south.
step out of, and
Sorry about that picture, but that's all they had on.
having 4 people there would have been
Coming in,
painful.
we pretty much, they divide it into phases, so phase 1, phase 2. So phase 1, we've done all the earth removal there, that was in 2013. So this is 2019 Google Maps, just to give you an overview. So this is phase 1, which is complete.
Thank
We're
you very
active
much
in
for coming
phase
out.
2 here.
You're welcome.
And this is where we're at now. This I took in September.
Is that what they're mixing with the?
So this sand would be what
I
they
mean,
would
the
mix with the
DEP,
paper fiber.
if
So
somebody-
obviously, it's
these people
important
wanna
that there
call
is
the
a sandy
DEP,
material.
they're not gonna
This
wanna
material
talk
in
about
Ware
landfill.
is almost exactly similar to
No, but
what's
what they
on
can do
Gavin
is
Road.
talk to Brian, and Brian has a
Let's
long.
hope so.
This is
Brian
looking
has a long
across,
history of working
so
with
this
us.
is phase 1
He's
into
been on
phase
all the
2,
sites
just
in
to
Worcester
give you
County.
the perception of
I mean,
how
many years
big
has
the
he
gravel
been
was that ran all the way across.
Involved with,
But that's what
His
it looks
office
like.
has been involved
So
with this
she's
for-
hayed that several
Brian in
times.
particular, so that he can speak to.
And obviously, it's under 61A, she's paying taxes, and
Sure.
before she was paying taxes, obviously, on land that she couldn't farm.
Couldn't farm, yes, yeah.
So that's what it looks like once it's done.
But Brian can attest to
Yeah.
the operations.
The other ones, this is a pit that we own, and it's actually
out his
still now,
information,
it's in
so-
Spencer.
There's been a lot of wild phone
So the
calls
whole
made
pit that we
about
have here is
somebody
123
called
acres, so this is only just a small part of it, but it's still a substantial area.
It's a confusing.
This is what it looks like now.
I just,
Yep.
you know, it was
So we reclaim this whole area. We're still active over here, and we have another area up here that we're
Mm-hmm.
active in.
it was his wife that called, I mean, she's very.
But that's what
nice
it
on
looks
the phone.
like.
I just said,
The nice thing about it is obviously,
Right.
we had a big problem with
Transfer station, all the stuff
ATVs
that's been
because
pulled out, and
this abuts the railroad tracks that
Yeah.
come through.
Okay.
So the ATVs would just come down the railroad tracks, and it was very hard for us, to the point that anytime we tried to do reclamation, everything just got dug up, to the point that I had to hire police details in there on the weekends. Once we did this, well, this isn't fun to ride in anymore. It's just like, it's a big field. So once we really did this, there wasn't any other issues. And then the last one is in West Brookfield on Madden Road. This is the pit here that we worked. This is a different one. But that's what it looks like now,
Okay.
Wonderful.
so.
Excellent.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
so welcome. Pictures help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably have those.
And again, thank you guys for coming.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you for having us. And there are cards in there. So
Okay, I
if
see
anybody, after the fact, if they want to take a card, if they have any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Lori, was there a activities report?
I wrote right on my, we'll have to wait till next month because
Okay.
I did
Okay.
not finish them.
Okay.
So
Just
I'm
making
sorry.
sure. That's all
No
right. We were just like
activities.
going, was it there? And I just don't see it. There's a lot of papers, so, okay. None today. And I do not have anything to report.
Neither do I.
I don't either.
Okay. So, how do you want to proceed?
So
We're on our 35th day.
today, so what do we
Yes.
have to do to,
I already sent DEP a, email that said this was happening,
okay.
so. Whatever you wanna,
And what our responsibility is to make a recommendation to the planning board?
well, that'll come later,
Okay.
but I believe if you read,
Let me see, which page?
if you read the letter from DEP, notice to the contrary to the department no
yes.
later than 35 days after the date of this notice.
Okay.
So if we don't,
Then this part goes.
it goes. Okay.
Goes.
South, so they say.
Well,
Right.
it's, they consider it, it's kind of like when I get when there's a new system going in and it's
Conditional passage.
well, it goes to DEP because it's new and innovative, and
Okay.
if they don't get back to us within a certain number of days, you consider it as
Okay.
agreement.
Yeah.
Right, so if we don't get back to them in a certain, in this amount of time,
By
then
today.
they're
Conditional
considered
agreement.
that it's a conditional agreement.
Shall I give my honest opinion?
Go ahead, Earl, please.
My honest opinion on the whole thing is I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it's a great idea for,
Templeton?
right? With the amount of concerns and the citizens who basically are who we're here for, I think the blowback and the problems and everything else, it just isn't gonna work. I really don't think it's gonna work for us. I would love to see a nice green open area with everyone, they say there's deer and bear back there. There could be, who knows? That's neither here nor there. As opposed to a gravel pit, it's much better, but with the concerns that these people have about cancers, their wells, the process, the time, unfortunately, the Casella name, I wasn't around when that whole fiasco went on, so I don't have any opinion about the company. But in my opinion, I think it's in the best interest of us as a board, there's me, just speaking for me.
No, I,
That we don't recommend having it done at this time. And I do highly recommend, though, is that we should find some other way to get something out of that The lady who was talking about holding them accountable with the bond.
Mhm.
I know we don't have the money to go after somebody, or the time, and they probably have more money to fight it, and to
Then,
do
yeah.
whatever they do, it could have expired. I don't know the logistics or the, that's the wrong
Was
word.
this a bond through Casella?
No, no,
Oh,
from
it
the
was
original,
from the original.
people.
Okay, right, that's
who
what I
are,
understood.
You know,
Okay.
and then, it sounds like all they want is to, they're never gonna keep their end of the bargain.
Mrs. Burden made a good point too with the RA2 question. And I can't ask Richard, who is our zoning enforcement officer, he's on vacation until next week. So I can put that as part of the response, that we have more questions. So
Yeah.
I can come up with something tomorrow morning, get it out to you guys to look at,
Okay.
and get it right out to DEP.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
And I agree with
Yeah.
Earl that it all sounds really great.
Yeah, it sounds
We-
a little too good. I
The
think
whole
with
giving-
that, I think the biggest problem, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, go
Jane,
ahead.
is the fact that there's houses around there and the watershed issue. All the pits that she just showed us the pictures of, I did not see any water or wetlands around
No.
there on any picture, did you?
No.
So I think that's a major concern, especially with living right next to Temple Stewart in the front end of that.
Right.
I mean, I lived that thing, so to
Right.
me, I know how it was fixed by the DEP,
Mhm.
and I was impressed.
This one has
So if that, I just don't think it's a good
I
idea.
think that's water.
That's my opinion, and that's just my opinion.
Water.
I would say that that's water. But
Was that water?
I think so.
Looks like it could be. But
Yeah,
yep.
but they can't be within 200 feet of
Within
it,
200 feet.
so they couldn't have been right next to it.
I think this is the here.
Is that water? Yeah, that must
It
be
does
water.
look like water,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
But I think where they're working is here.
It's here, so is that 200
So is
feet?
that-
yeah, it's gotta be 200 feet.
Yeah.
But there's no well, I mean, you have a neighbor,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
that
they have-
one,
yeah,
a
the
very concerned
neighbors
neighbor
are
about her,
Farther
and personally, I
away.
wouldn't want that,
There's the closest.
even if they're mixing it
like,
that day, it's still
resident
in a hot July day, that's just not right. I mean, I know it's no different from a farmer spread manure before he tills it in, but that's farming community and that's what you're signing up for. This is not against.
This one, it was like right on there.
So I think you should probably take a formal vote make a motion to respond to DEP.
Okay, so, just want to say it right.
We need like farther information.
No,
No.
I would just say I would make a motion not to go forward with it at this time.
At this time?
That we
Okay.
we
That
do
makes
not
sense.
recommend it. That, I mean, does that sound
Yep.
right?
No, that makes perfect
Sound
sense.
right to you, Laura? Okay, I mean, I'm just winging
Did you
it.
get that one?
I'm winging it.
No, you're not winging it. You know more about this than we do, so.
There's definitely a river by most of these.
And do you have a second?
I will second that.
Yes, and all in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you, I thought you heard that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And thank you for arranging all of this,
Yeah.
Lori, so that everybody could come and get their questions and answers and statements out, so. Is Mrs.
Should be no yelling in here.
I almost
Actually,
grabbed your
It really was
gavel.
pretty good.
I thought it went very well,
did too,
considering, I mean,
I think it could have been a lot more heated.
yes.
Small room
Hmm.
and
Is Mrs. Burden still on the, is she on it?
No.
No, she's not, right? Because I've heard her speak before, so. Okay.
If you wanna sign those for me.
And December 16th is okay for our next meeting? The chair was
The
awful.
chair's horrible.
Okay, so it wasn't just me, I sat down and oh no, it goes way
That one
down
goes
as soon
way
as you
forward.
sit in it.
What's that look for, Lori?
It was bad. Oh, I
Oh,
thought
that
I
would've been
was-
funny.
I thought I was going under the table the first time I sat on it, so.
All right, so the 16th?
16th of December, good with everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And Lori, you're gonna find out where the minutes are going.
They're there, I know they're there, I just have to, I'll lead, I have her name, so I'll be able to match it up on there. I can direct her where to go to get them.
Which
But
one?
what I'll do in the meantime is I'll email her a copy from the first meeting, she must have been looking for it.
Okay, but I'm like,
That
April
wasn't
Hubbard
our
said that she
meeting.
listened to our meeting, and she wasn't at our meeting, so,
No.
okay.
I don't know where that
I
was.
wanted
honestly
to ask her
don't
where she was,
know what
what
she was
meeting she
talking
was talking
about.
about, but then something else happened.
So,
So, okay, because it wasn't recorded, or
No.
it was a meeting. I'm trying to think who, someone else was there, weren't
I
they?
don't know.
The Russians.
I know all three of them were there, and then I think somebody else was there to like listen in from the.
Yeah, no.
And whoever the other person was there wasn't, oh,
It was a man. It wasn't the two guys from the
I don't know what
Um,
meeting
I'm
she
trying to-
attended, but
yeah, I don't know what meeting.
I've
okay.
I
never
don't
met
know,
her
yeah.
before, so.
Yeah,
No.
I do know her, but, I should ask her what meeting she listened to, so, but
She said it was ours, but it
it
wasn't.
was ours, but she said she listened to it, and we haven't had any recorded meetings, so, okay,
But we will from now on.
okay. Fine.
It's actually, we've been working up towards it
Okay.
And-
No, I was just curious if it was.
So just recorded or TV?
to be here and to be recorded,
Okay,
so.
all right,
We'll be
okay.
using this room, so I have to look at dates and make sure that we're not corresponding.
Yes.
What's that word? Conflicting.
Conflicting, I'm like, I'm looking going, I don't
extremely
remember what
tired
it is
and I
either.
apologize.
that's okay.
And something in here, I'm allergic to it. I can feel my eyes.
Oh.
Just,
That's not
and
good.
I'm scratchy.
Okay, so then I would make a motion that we adjourn, and,
I will second
Okay.
that.
and is it really 9:30?
It is
9:25?
9:24. All right, so Jane was first. You seconded?
Lori did.
Laura did?
Are you in favor, Earl?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
You, Nan.
So we off TV now?